Hey, welcome back to the Uncomfortable is Okay podcast. I'm your host, Chris Desmond. This is a show where we help you get better at doing hard things. Changing it up a little bit this week in terms of the structure. Got the interview episode coming out at the end of the week, and so this earlier in the week episode is going to be our strategy episode, our little mini episode. We'll be back to regular programming next week with the interview episode on the Tuesday earlier in the week and the strategy episode later in the week. But this week, the strategy that we're talking about is using a different framework. So what is it? If you're pushing your boundaries, sooner or later you're going to come up against an area of your life or a project that makes you uncomfortable. And chances are that it's going to make you uncomfortable because you're not very good at it, you don't know how to do it, or that it's something new and there's a lot of uncertainty around it. When you run into this situation, think about the things in your life that you are good at. What are they? Do you have a specific way that you do them? Do you have a framework that you use to follow over time as you do them? If you do have a framework that you use for a part of your life that you're strong at, begin to ask yourself, how can I apply this framework to what it is that I want to do now? And these answers might not be immediately obvious to you, but start to look for the similarities between what it is that you're trying to do and how you utilize this framework in another stronger area of your life. And it's really important to focus on the similarities and where things could fit rather than looking for the differences. For example, I'm pretty comfortable with physical training, but over the last few years, I've really wanted to try and build my self-awareness. And building self-awareness it's really hard and it's really uncomfortable for a variety of reasons. For any of you that have been trying to train your self-awareness, you'll know this. It's super hard, especially when you start. But what I did was I applied the framework of physical training to building my self-awareness. I started off with just doing small amounts, and I progressively did harder work. I took days off to relax and recover. And most importantly, I did it consistently. And I'm still nowhere near as comfortable with working on self-awareness as I am in terms of training physically. But I was able to use the same framework to improve both areas of my life. So, where do you apply this in your life? The strategy is best applied to a project or an area of your life that you want to work on in the medium to long term. It's not really an in-the-moment strategy. And hopefully by now, you'll know that I like you to get uncomfortable in a proactive fashion rather than waiting for something uncomfortable to come and hit you upside the head. So with that in mind, the strategy is best applied to an area that you've chosen to push your boundaries in, that you know is going to be hard and you know is going to be uncomfortable. And the best time to apply the strategy is straight after you've picked the project or area that you want to work on. Utilize one of the frameworks that you use in other areas of your life and that you're comfortable with and you feel you're strong in, and apply it to this new situation. Plan out the progressions for your project using the comfortable framework. And once you've come up with a plan, then get into action. And you can use the same framework to assess obstacles as you come up to them. The strategy in action. So this strategy came to light in a podcast conversation with Sam McIntyre, who's the co-owner of Tall Poppy Real Estate. And it was a gem that just kind of popped into the conversation. And I thought, man, that's a really cool strategy. because Sam was talking about his approach to making sure his family life was as great as it could be. And Sam's got a wife and young children. He keeps active and he runs a highly successful real estate business. So he has a lot of pulls on his time and his energy. And he wanted to make sure that he put enough of all of that time and energy into his family to really make sure that his family life was as great as it could be. So he set out to work on this. And obviously with a young challenge, this was a young challenge. With a young family, this was a new challenge for Sam, but it was one that he was determined to be great at. And he was already great at business. So he wondered if utilizing the similar framework to what he did in business would work for him and his family. So he looked at that framework that he used to successfully operate a business. Then he looked for the similarities in his family life that he could apply this business framework to, and decided to experiment with it. Sam created more scheduling around his family life, making sure that he blocked out the important times so that he knew he would show up for his family and be present. He created priorities so he and the family knew what was important. And it wasn't about holding him and his family to strict key performance indicators, but rather it gave him a way to approach thinking about how he could improve his family life in a way that was familiar and comfortable to him. So why does it work? Doing something new is inherently uncomfortable. And some of the reasons that it is uncomfortable is because there's a lot of uncertainty around the outcome. But I think more of the reason is because there's a lot of uncertainty around the process and around how to approach it. So you don't know how to approach something that you've never done before, or you haven't done that much before. So taking a framework or a process that you have used multiple times successfully will most often reduce your stress levels, especially if it's a process that you're comfortable with and that you've had some level of success with before. And applying this proven process to a new project elevates your confidence levels. It gives you a comfortable way to think about the newness and uncertainty, and it reduces your anxiety levels, avoiding overwhelm, and allows you to increase your performance in this new area. So that is the use a different framework strategy. It's a draft excerpt from my upcoming book, Get Out of My Comfort Zone, an expert guide to doing hard shit. If you want to register your interest for the book when it comes out, kept up to date with a few of the draft strategies, and be hooked up with some deals when it does arrive, you can head over to getoutofmycomfortzone.com. That's getoutofmycomfortzone.com. Pop your details in there. I'll flick you a few strategies to start with, and keep you in the loop of how everything is going. Thank you for getting uncomfortable with me today, and we'll see you again at the end of the week for our interview episode.